Welcome to Sacred Magic. Violet is on a quest to bring sacredness back into our everyday experiences. Anyone can have an extraordinary life when they are able to tap into their sacred magic within. Violet and her guests will be sharing their divine passions, inspirations, and stories of connecting with their sacred magic. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet Rayne.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Vialet Rayne, and my guest today is Sarah Albright. She has spent almost the last 20 years in the salon service industry, specializing in non-surgical hair replacement since about 2013. Many of her clients worked with her for several years, and life coaching and counseling is something that many service professionals do naturally. Life has changed significantly for her since 2019, just like for all of us. And through her own personal experiences and spiritual awakening, she came to realize that she did not truly align with the passion, path, and purpose of the work that she was doing at that time. She had long been interested in surface level astrology analysis and had recently begun to study Chaldean Numerology. And when she made a decision to close her salon early spring of 2022, she moved to Roxborough Park, Colorado, and immersed herself into studies. She studied everything from astrology, numerology, sound healing, sacred geometry, religious history, mystery school teachings, and much more. She underwent mass amounts of healing and self-discovery during this time and gained valuable knowledge about herself and her gifts from the universe. She is now a Chaldean Numerologist, a Huber method psychological astrologer, life path coach, and she works with clients on their path of self-discovery, mission, and purpose. She's also a reader at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts on a regular basis on Wednesdays, and she also teaches classes. So welcome, Sarah. Wow, that's a long journey, right?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, absolutely. It's felt like it.
I bet it has. I think it has for all of us when we get on our path. So share with us a little bit, why astrology? Why were you so interested in astrology, and how does that passion drive you?
Well, growing up, I always had a really difficult time connecting with spirituality, God, universe, and any sort of like higher power. And, through my struggles, always being more of like a scientific and an analytical person, it was important to me to be able to not really have proof, but have something like make sense, right? So when I found astrology and numerology, I got really interested in it because it just everything that I discovered, I was like, okay, this fits and this fits. And then I, was asking other people about their stuff, and I was able to, through application, find a real, practical ability to discover myself and other people, how I react with other people. And so as a journey, it didn't start off like I thought it would, how it's become. It was just about discovery of, people around me. But it has expanded into this huge study, which I just am blown away by daily.
I love that. I love that. And for those that are listening that don't know much about astrology, what I do know is there's lots of different kinds of astrology. There's lots of different viewpoints and focuses. Can you share a little bit about the differences and why you're drawn to this particular one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off with a couple of basic astrology courses, and study in different house systems. And as I was applying it to my life, there was just some things that didn't seem right. They weren't fitting. For a overall umbrella, it seemed very, practical, but then there were certain things, little pieces of the puzzle that didn't fit. So when I found the Huber method and psychological astrology, it really honed everything in on me. And they look a little bit different at your planets. So they include Saturn, for example, as a pretty important planet with your sun and your moon, which I find a lot of application in, since we live in a world where we are confined by matter. Saturn is actually pretty important in your chart. So I think that gets overlooked by other astrology systems. And, just the way they divide the houses as well. I don't know if many of the listeners have heard of the Koch house system in comparison to Placidus or Whole House. So it's just a little bit of a different edge that I think gives a little bit more accuracy in my practice so far.
I love that. I love that. Astrology is one of those areas that I've not been drawn to, right? I've not been pulled to, because I think it takes such a deep understanding. I mean, people look at charts and they really get into it. It's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, I'm totally lost. I think it takes someone with a passion to really do that, and to be able to align it practically to what's going on currently in your life, because it's really interesting that it does align. I mean, if you think about it, you were born on a certain date for a purpose. All of that was created and planned before you get here. We talk about our divine plan, our divine purpose, but those charts and houses also were part of that divine plan of working all that out and what we wanted to work on. I can't imagine what it's like on the other side when we decide that we want to come into a physical life and sitting down, figuring out what chart we want to come in on. I can't imagine. There's got to be a simple step on the other side that helps us, right? Because it's so expensive, right?
Absolutely. And it's interesting because when you look at a astrology chart or a numeroscope, which is what a numerology chart is called, a personal natal numerology chart is called a numeroscope. When you look at these charts, they're like a roadmap. And it's so interesting because when you start to learn, the language of astrology and numerology, which they really are languages, they're languages of the universe, trying to connect with you and teach you things as above, so below. Well, what's above is, all of our planetary energy that's directly influencing us and how we move. So when you start to learn astrology and you start to, understand the birth chart and how numbers work, it really gives you another layer, another level of seeing things, which is really, really neat. And, some people at the center joke that they're like, oh, you have like a photographic memory because you can remember people's aspects. But when you really start reading astrology charts, you start to see people, like their energy and their soul through their chart. So it's like, for many psychics, when they can see an aura, it's like a different modality of that, right? You can see people's energy and their aura through their numbers, through their chart. And it's a really cool way to, for somebody to express, their energy and to be able to see who they are and connect with maybe some of those shadow aspects that they don't really know, and then be able to incorporate that into whole to create a more cohesive and holistic human being, right?
I love that. I love that. So a person wanting to come in and do a reading that wants to ask, we get a zillion questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
About my love life, about my finances, about my purpose, about my health. Can you utilize those tools in the chart to really provide clarity and guidance for those individuals?
Absolutely, absolutely. Every part of the chart, that's what's really nice about the house system, specifically the Koch house system, and how that works is that divides the chart into areas of your life. So you can see not only where natally you have planets showing up, and so different energy is expressed in those ways, more profoundly than in other areas. So it can make sense, as to why somebody maybe is so work driven, right? Well, they've chosen that in their life, and you can really show that in an astrology chart. Or vice versa, maybe somebody's very relationship driven or home roots driven. You can see all that. If somebody's dealing with health issues, you can see it through the natal chart as well as by transit and what's going on currently in the sky, how it relates to your own natal chart. So, I mean, it's really fascinating.
It sounds so fascinating. I play with numbers, like number 1 means this, and number 10, we talk about angel numbers. So numbers are very significant in everything that we do. And I love the fact that you also look at numbers related to our charts and who we are. And what can you see in those numbers when you start to look at them?
Well, one thing I love about studying astrology and numerology together is you can really see the similarities and the parallels in the systems, but they show you through different ways. What I like about numerology is there are a couple basic numbers that you are represented by, your base vibration and your life path. And those are kind of like overarching energies. And we can find out the details of how those numbers react through your astrology chart. But if you wanted to know like how somebody is at a very basic level, but not exactly how all those wheels are turning, numerology is really neat because it gives you this very overarching energy. And then you can see the similarities in people based on just 9 numbers. Numerology is really a cycle. And each number, not only does it mean something specific, but it also connects with a planet. So then when you can see, oh, okay, so these numbers, like numbers are the root, the basic of how we measure everything, right? In our world, in our universe. And it's also a way to measure archetypes and personalities and how people react together. So if you're looking at your numerology in who you are, you can also very easily see somebody else without having to know their birth time and going into, the pretty detailed and pretty extensive science that is astrology. So numerology is really a gateway or a path into being able to understand this pretty intense astrological system as well.
I love that. I love that people have different passions and different focuses, because that's what makes us all completely different. And I love all the different perspectives that we can look at about ourselves. Now, I also know that you're teaching classes at the center. So, what are some of those classes that you're offering through the center that you've been working on in these areas?
So both of the classes I offer right now are entry-level basic understanding of numerology and astrology, focusing on self-discovery and knowing yourself. So we're just kind of starting out. We're getting used to the cycle of numbers in the numerology chart. We're understanding the couple of main, most important numbers and how to calculate those numbers, as well as how to understand where they fit in the cycle and really the purpose. So that's the numerology class, and the astrology class is understanding your birth chart. So it's starting to really become familiar with astrology and the different parts of it, and begin to read your own birth chart to be able to understand yourself better. And then, with that knowledge, you can go on to expand that afterwards.
So our birth chart is like an overview. Okay, I'm going to sound really ignorant here, so join me in
You're
this.
doing great.
Birth chart is like, but as we move through different cycles, because the influences change, how do you use that birth chart? Is there a different chart that you use to expand what's happening now in this moment with the planetary and energies that are hitting the planet? Is that as a different viewpoint, or does your birth chart allow you to see what's happening?
So both. So there are certain parts of your birth chart called the life clock, and that's going to really show you where you are based on your age and the year you're in, where you are in the chart, in your natal chart, and so what, where the focus is, where it's kind of highlighted. But also there's a transit chart, and so that's going to take your natal chart, which, like you said, is a snapshot of where the sky from where you were born in your vantage point on Earth. And then it's going to compare it to the stars right now. So as the sky is constantly always moving, we can feel these energies flowing and changing. And that's directly, related to how the sky is moving. So when we understand our birth chart and we can really read our own birth chart, then Pluto in Aquarius retrograde going back into Capricorn makes a lot more sense, because we can look at our chart, our natal chart, and say, where is Capricorn to Aquarius? Okay, now that's where Pluto is. So I know that whatever part of my chart right now where Pluto is where I'm going through transformation. So even the listeners now can go into, their natal chart and look at, okay, where are planets now compared to where they were when I was born? And it can help you give more of an understanding as to the energy that's influencing you currently.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people's question is, because of our charts and there's information, does that mean that that's fixed, that that's not ever going to change? Can we learn to navigate those energies to better move through that? Can we make shifts or changes based on that? So how can we use the chart to not be a prisoner to the chart, I guess, of, okay, I'm going to have a bad life because my chart says so, to be able to go, no, I'm not, I'm going to do this. So how can we work with those charts to be better, the driver of our own bus, I guess?
I love that question, because I think that most of what people know about astrology is, if you see red or squares or oppositions, you're like, well, that's bad, right? Like, that's not something that is going to benefit me in my life. It's tough. And just like how people have sometimes the incorrect opinion that when you get tarot cards, certain tarot cards are really bad. It's like, well, no, this is learning, right? That's what it's all about, is learning. So in this life, in the astrology chart, there are definitely markers as to lessons that we are focusing on in this life. And there's also markers as to our gifts and the things that we carry into this life that we are fully grown at. We don't have to work on anymore. These are fruit right for the harvest. So there's certain aspects in our chart that are totally beneficial and we can use, and there's certain aspects that we're building awareness to, right? So the kind of astrology that I practice looks at a more holistic view of the whole individual. So if you have these certain difficult mountains to climb or red aspects, right, we also have good aspects that are helping us to do that. And awareness of those mountains that we need to climb is the first step in really knowing where to go. If we don't have a path or how to know how to overcome something, then it can make it a little bit more difficult as we're trying to, navigate kind of blind. Right. So when I look at a birth chart, I don't ever look at things that are fixed. There's always higher levels and different dimensions to a birth chart. If you're operating on an unconscious level, just like anybody else, in the world, if you're operating on an unconscious level with your birth chart, life looks different than if you're operating from a position of awareness and willingness to meet the universe and look at yourself and deal with some of these issues. Because when we have these problems repeating in our life, and so many people can testify to these cycles, I deal with the same things over and over. Why am I dealing with the same things over and over? Well, in astrology, we can see these mountains that we're supposed to get over. And once we deal with those cycles, and I mean, once we release some of these demons and transmute this energy, we're able to operate from a different level. So something that may have seemed very, very painful and hard to deal with can seem totally different if you look at it from a different perspective, right? You can look at it as, a ability to be able to lead people through the dark instead of you feeling blind all the time, right? So if you have an aspect in your chart that is making you, develop personal skills with others, right? Then sometimes you might have difficult relationships because you're supposed to be working on how do I, cooperate with somebody else. And if you know that one of your main lessons is to learn how to cooperate with people, then you may approach people differently and stop for a second. And so I think that that's what's really important. I think sometimes people get scared of tarot readings, astrology chart readings, learning about themselves, because then you really have to go, okay, what's my part? And how can I be the co-creator of my own life? And, kind of grab this chart by the cojones and, live my life, right?
I love that. I love that. A lot of people get stuck in energy, right? I think
Yeah.
awareness and perspective is so important. And I do a class called Sacred Candles of Intention at the end of the year where we set our intentions for the next year. And the monthly energies are set for me from mystery school teachings of what each month is about. And so we pull a card for each month and people are like, "Oh my gosh, oh my god." I'm like, I would rather know what
Yeah.
I'm working through so that I can do it in a better way than to live my life blind
Yeah.
and not know why I'm struggling or what's going on. Because the sooner you can face that, the sooner you can work through that, the sooner you can move on to something else. And all of us have come to this life to have certain experiences um, for our own evolution and growth. And it is part of the process. So when we
Yeah.
can do our healing and our work, we can really move through it, and awareness is a key part of that. Of okay, I have choices to make, and it's about choices. What
Mhm.
choice am I going to make today, and
And
what
it's
do I
about
need to
empowerment.
know?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
empowerment, right?
yeah, so that we can step into who we are and know ourselves better, right? So I love that. And there are lots of tools, right? Sarah does numerology and astrology. Michael in our center does hand analysis, right? There's human design. There's, all kinds of things that just let us know a little bit more about ourselves, who we are, and what we can learn. And if you
Mhm.
really resonate with astrology and numerology, which I play with numerology, I don't play with astrology much, but I love numerology. I'm fascinated with astrology because Sarah's all the time going, "Violet, is this going on for you? Because this is in your chart. Is this showed up for you? Because it's in your chart." I love your knowledge of what you're working on and how it can be so helpful. Because you talk about life path numbers. I'm a 3 life path,
Mhm.
so it shows up and how we move through life and how we show up every day. It makes sense, especially to Sarah, because she's sitting on the sideline going, "Oh, life path 3. I know what that's about, right?"
Mhm.
And she's right.
Yeah.
It gives great insight, right?
Absolutely. And I'll just give a short, quick example. But when I was going through trying to decide that if I was going to close my salon, it made it a lot easier to make that decision and feel strong about my future and where I was going, because I understood myself better. When everything happened and I started going through my spiritual awakening, I was really confused and I was really lost and scared, and I thought something was wrong with me. And I think so many people can experience that as they're going through spiritual awakening and dark night of the soul and everything like that. And some people are really able to connect with the divine in a very natural way, and then some of us are just more scientific and more about numbers, and we understand things in a little bit of a different modality. And I think that numerology and astrology can give people the opportunity that may not be able to as easily connect with the divine. So an opportunity to connect with themselves through something that feels a little more solid.
I love that. I love that because the science approach, my understanding where it can be proven, I get that. And those of you going through awakening where you're looking at all areas of your life, do I want to do this job anymore? Do I want to own this salon anymore? Do I want to do something different? Do I want to look at the world differently? Do I have a different perspective on things? Those can be scary, right? It can be frightening. There's a lot of fear in that. But when you can lean in to either a technique or a process or a modality, it can help with that. I also think community is really important when you're going through that. And, that's what we've created at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, where people can go, "Hey, I'm not alone. There are other people that think the same way I do." And they've survived through that change, those major changes. So many people come in and they've changed their profession, their job, what they're doing, how they look at the world, right?
Mhm.
But it is scary in the beginning. So I can only imagine what it's like to close a salon and walk away from a career that you built, because I did it too. I know what that looks like. And when you walk away, you know you'll never return. It's time for something new, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's one thing I love about your place and your center and what you offer to the community, because I really think that that's so important. And I have had so many people the last few months, giving them readings, and they're really going through that. And they're walking into the center and they're going, "Oh my gosh, this is what I need." Somewhere that's a community where I can learn, where I can, not only just learn, but have fun, do these play shops, get information. And so it's really important what you're doing. And I just am so grateful that I found you guys, exactly when I needed to. I was alone for a while, which I think I needed, but we all have our own path, and we all find you and discover your spiritual gifts exactly when we need to, right?
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm glad that you found us too. We really love having you be part of the family. So pretty amazing. So for those that are listening, make sure you check out Sarah's profile on our website. We'll have it at the bottom of the screen for this video. She's a reader at our center on Wednesdays. She's offering classes. I have this feeling she's going to be offering more classes. She's in full speed ahead. I keep
The
slowing her
wheels are
down.
turning. I got something in the works right now. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Vialet slows her down every once in a while and goes, wait, pause a minute. Let's think about this.
I go, Violet, Saturn is on my ascendant. So anybody that knows astrology or wants to find out about that, sometimes Violet sets healthy boundaries for me.
I think we all need that, right? Because
I need that, definitely.
well, a lot of people, they step into this and then they, first it's scary. There's a lot of fear in spiritual awakening and things are changing. And then when they know where they're going, like they have a general idea, they want to drink from the fire hose. They want it all right now. Can I have it right now? I want to do it right now. So I get all that, but sometimes I have to slow them down a little bit, because you can easily get overwhelmed with all the energies. And I love the passion and excitement, and I understand that. I see lots of people, but every once in a while we'll have somebody find our center and they sign up for 10 big classes and they get you need to come and see me. Here's
Yeah.
your appointment. You need to come and talk to me, because there's no way you can integrate what you're trying to do. Let's prioritize where we're going and take it over time. And I do that out of love, because I, in the beginning, saw people really take on a lot and then it's too overwhelming. And so then they walk away, and that's not what we want. We want them to move forward in a healthy way. So I love the passion and excitement, Sarah. So you always have choice. I just like the little bird in your ear going, okay, let's think about this. But she's got some things she's pondering. So I think next year she'll be teaching lots more classes. So I'm excited. We'll have her back on the show to talk about what's new with Sarah and what she's offering after she gets a little bit of foundation under where she knows where she's going. We'll have her back on the show and talk about that. Sarah, thank you so much for being here this morning and taking the time to talk to me. Thank you for listening. We love our listeners. We love our community and family. We hope to see you at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you're listening from afar, know that we'd love for you to check in. Make sure you subscribe, follow, comment on all of our channels. We offer lots of things for people to check out. I hope you have a magical day, and I hope to see you soon.
Bye.
Are you seeking an online spiritual education resource? Do you crave to know more about various topics of spirituality? Discover Your Spiritual Gifts Academy offers a wide variety of programs, including Crystal Alchemy, Tarot, The Journey of the Fool, Akashic Record Reading Certification, and much more. These online courses allow you to learn on your schedule and at your own pace. You can find out more at www.discoveryourspiritualgifts.academy. Thank you for joining us. To find out more about Vialet, head over to discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. You can also send a personal message to Vialet through email, violet@discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. If you love the show, subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. Until next time, remember, we are meant to have abundant and joyful lives. We hope to see you soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.